welcome back to another episode of the Open Source Cafe. And today I have my good friend Apoorv with us here today, and we're going to talk about his experiences of being a college dropout. Because we get questions like that. Should you drop out? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? And what are the things to keep in mind? And Apoorv has a nice, amazing YouTube channel where you can like right now you can learn some amazing web development. So he's doing his boot camps around that. Heard very nice things from the community members. So yeah, you can check him out, and check out the links in the description. Make sure you subscribe and check out the content he does. But would you like to give yourself a quick intro?
Yeah, thanks Kunal for introducing me. But I'm Apoorv and I've been a software engineer for about roughly 5 years. And I started my journey uh, without a degree. I dropped out of college in my first semester, and after that, I started, exploring coding on my own. Soon enough, I started freelancing, and through freelancing, I started getting into startups, into having clients around the world, and working with some companies as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Currently, I'm working on content creation. I have a community of my own, and I aim to provide free education.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit more about like your background. Why did you decide to um, not go to university? And what was like? I know you in high school you had biology, and what might be the reason for that? If did you always wanted to get into tech, or when was that plan made?
Well, I always wanted to get into tech. That's a plus. I mean, as kids, we all wanted to, grow up and build games or, work in gaming companies and things like that. So I had those things as well, and I was always a tech enthusiast. But I think like when I was in high school, I had some financial issues. I was going through a financial crisis. My family was going through a financial crisis in life, and I back then, I mean, in 11th, when you have to choose a subject, I wanted to take science, but along with that, I didn't opt for computer science. I didn't take it. One of the prime reasons for that was that I didn't had a computer. I didn't had a laptop where I can practice coding, and I knew that that was one of the most essential things if I wanted to, at least score good marks or grow in tech. So I refrained from it. I thought that it is something that I might, pursue after my high school is over. But by the time my high school got completed, again I was in similar crisis. And even worse situations where I was in a situation where I was even planning to start working in some call centers just to support my family. And I got a second hand laptop, so that was a big plus. One of my relatives, they donated me their laptop, so I started learning a little bit of HTML and CSS. But I mean, didn't spend much time with it. I got bored with it, to be very honest, because that's not interesting part of computer science. And I also tried a little bit of C++, but even that wasn't working out. So I think in October, somewhere around October 2017, the year I completed my high school, since I was already planning to work in call centers and things like that, I opted for a distance course with IGNU, Indira Gandhi National Open University, and I was pursuing BCA there. But I was in a situation where most of the students find themselves in today's time. I mean, most of the families cannot afford the luxury of premium educations, because the education, premium education is pretty costly these days. None of them provides, good quality education in low prices. uh, Apart from Kunal is already doing a great work providing education for free. But back then there were not many alternatives. There were not many, you know things that you could look forward to. So I was in that situation. I was in a situation where I had to take a loan, but I knew that the college education system in India is pretty broken, because we had outdated courses. And people who actually, there was a very funny thing that happened. So when I was giving the interviews of call center, there was this one guy I met in a particular interview, and he had completed his BTech, and after completing his BTech, he was applying for that call center job, and that was like pretty horrifying for me, because I mean, I was also planning to take a loan for my education, and I saw this guy who already completed it from tier 3 college, and was still there with me. So it was pretty horrifying. So I chose back then, I think that was the time when I decided that this is not something for me to take a debt and get into a situation where even after 3 4 years of college I'm not equipped with skills, uh, but just a degree to my name. So I didn't want it to get into that situation, and that is the reason why I chose to drop.
Well, thanks for sharing, Apoorv. Very inspiring story. And how did you like basically what now that you are 5 years in the journey? Can you share a little bit more about like what were the benefits that you
Well, I
faced?
think one of the most lucrative benefit that was there was that like instead of spending 3 years or 4 years in my journey where I had a degree, I was pretty quick to learn because I was not bounded by the time it takes to attend your college classes. I was not bound by any attendances, any assignments, any exams that you have to spend considerable amount of time on as students. So not having all that time spent there, but instead having spent that time in building skills, it was a big advantage that I got a kickstart, and I had all the time that I could give into my education. So that was a big benefit. And looking back into my journey, I feel that if let's say I took the college path, then by the time I would have graduated from that BCA that I was doing, or even BTech, something like that, I would have graduated in the middle of COVID, when the lockdowns were going on, and the situation was pretty bad, right? So with no one to guide and just a college degree, I would have been even worse situation than not having a degree. So looking back into the journey, I think that having all the time to build my skills, to hone my skills, and to get a early start with freelancing, because when you're freelancing, no one asks for a degree. There are companies who still used to ask for degree back then. Now I think the companies don't even require that, because today is the time of content creation, and people know that people have skills which matters more than degree. But back then the companies used to ask for degree, and freelancing was a good option to get started. But one of the most prime benefits was that I saved a lot of time and money not going into college. So that was
Hmm.
there.
And what do you think are like some of the downsides of dropping out?
Well, the obvious downsides are that I was not eligible for a lot of programs that colleges offer for students. Microsoft Student Partner, and the GitHub Student Packs that gives you a lot of tools that you can use for free as students. So I was never eligible for any of them. Right, so that was one of the biggest disadvantages that were there for dropping out of college. Apart from that, I think one of the major disadvantages was that a lot of people think that you have abundant time after you drop out of college, but the pressure is immense. When you drop out of college, you need to work hard, you need to make it as soon as possible, because the thing is that, especially in India, if I talk about what happens in India, you're only eligible to apply for government colleges and give JEE main, which is the main examination for a lot of colleges. You're only eligible for 3 years after you complete your 12th. So if I, let's say, completed my 12th in 2017, my eligible years were 2017, 18, and 19. After that, I am not even eligible to sit in those examinations, right? So the clock was ticking. I had very less time, 2 years to just do something with my career and get started. Obviously there's family pressure as well. A lot of relatives are poking around, what's your son doing and things like that. So all of that disadvantages are there. And obviously one of the major disadvantages, as I already mentioned, was not being eligible for all these programs that helps you understand how working in teams are, and how working in real world setups are, and things like that. Also, there are still some companies that sometimes ask why I do not have a degree, and having all those employee policies and HR policies, they outright say that, I mean, there are very less companies, but still there are some that outright say that we cannot hire you because you don't have a degree. So all these things, and you know all these things act as a disadvantage when you're in this kind of an environment.
Yeah, especially in India, degree is very important. But
Yeah, there's
like
a
outside India,
yeah, there are some, superstitions as well. I mean, people just cannot accept that, you don't have a degree. So it's pretty
mhm.
important in India.
Yeah, very important in India, but like outside India doesn't really matter that much. Um,
Mm,
that's why like you can do freelancing stuff and remote work. But speaking of which, you did a lot of freelancing. So
mm.
now we talked about like your past and your experiences, your benefits, disadvantages. Tell us a little bit more about. So you dropped out. How did you grow and how did you land the freelancing roles and all the other things that you did? I know you have a very nice background in like as a senior engineer and architect and all sorts of things. So tell us a little bit more about how you grew and how you started your
So
freelancing journey.
yeah, so one of the major things, I think I got lucky in that aspect, but one of the major things were that as soon as I dropped out and moved out of my home, I found a few people who were already into this space for many years, and they took me in as a mentee. So that was a big advantage because then I was directly working under those people, and they were not like spoon feeding me, but they were still there to guide me when I'm building something. If I'm stuck, they're there to tell me how I can get out of that problem, what sort of things I should google, or what sort of things I should learn. So I started with Python. I started learning Python, and I got pretty excited about Python when I started it. And it was a it I used to write a lot of scripts initially. I mean, scripts for automating stuff, and these small scripts that are there for small tasks that are there. So that was pretty interesting. And gradually, I mean, I started honing my Python skills over the time. I picked up some other skills as well, like some basic HTML, CSS, and front end stuff. And I think that around 3 years into my journey, the skills that I had, I wasn't a Python wizard or something like that. I wasn't good with HTML, CSS, or anything like that, but I still had enough skills and enough courage to go out and you know tell people that okay, I know something, and I can you know try and build your projects, right? So that's how I started my freelancing. And I went to these platforms like freelancer.com and upwork.com and all these platforms. So I went into those platforms and I applied for a few projects. I bidded on them like all the people do, and I was lucky enough to get one major project. It was to build a cryptocurrency trading bot on Bittrex and Binance. So that was my first project, and that project was pretty difficult as per my standards and skills, but I still pulled it off because I worked very hard into that project. But once you complete a project and you get that one review into your account, you gain immense confidence going forward. So after that, I started getting a lot of projects, and one extra thing, I mean, I usually tell it to people, but one extra thing that I did back then was that all the people that I was working on, all the people that I was working with, I used to collect their information. I used to collect their things like their email IDs and stuff like that. And over the time, I built a list of email IDs that I had with me, and I used to send them a cold email every month. I used to send them I wrote a bot, and I used to send them cold emails every month, just greeting them normally, just a regular greeting email, that how are you and hope everything's fine and blah blah blah. So I used to send this email, but what this email did was it reinforced it in their mind that there's someone called Apoorv Goyal that we have worked with in the past. So whenever they had any friend, or they themselves needed a developer who for a project that they had, or a website that they wanted build, or any platform, any application, whatever it is, the first developer that came into their mind was me. Because I reinforced it again and again, right? So that was one of the tricks that I followed, collecting all those emails and sending cold emails every month, so that I just reinforce myself into their mind that Apoorv Goyal is a developer that we work with. He's trustworthy. He is something who did good work in the past, and he's the go-to developer if we have any task. So that's how I started freelancing. And obviously, when you're freelancing, you work on a very large spectrum of projects. You're not, because when you work in a product company or something like that, there are very monotonous tasks that comes your way every day. you're working on similar product every day and you're working on similar tasks every day. That happens with a lot of developers, especially, I mean, not in startups but in companies. That usually happens that you're working on similar stuff each and every day. But freelancing gave me the option to explore a lot of different languages, explore different types of products and different types of markets and things like that. So that was one of the key reasons why I grew very fast. And the trick that I just told about cold emailing everyone, that helped me grow my network immensely. And over the time, I think 1 year, 2 year down the line, I reached a state where without even applying for any projects or reaching out to people, people used to reach out to me with projects. That, okay, Apoorv, I have this friend who wants this project. So, okay, are you available for it? And the volume started growing so much over the time that I had to turn down projects rather than taking all the projects that are coming my way. So that's how I grew and s- did my freelancing.
Amazing, and all the resources that Apoorv is mentioning, you can check it out. And uh, the best resource I just recommend you check out his YouTube channel because you can connect with him personally. Thanks a lot for sharing, Apoorv. Really appreciate you joining. Can you tell us a little bit more? Like, in just one last question is, how can one decide, whether dropping out is, for them or not?
Yeah, so I get this question asked a lot of times. So one thing that I always tell anyone is to not drop out of college, right? No matter what, because if you are in a state that you have to drop out, you'll know. If you're, let's say, going through that financial crisis that you have to drop out, you'll know that you cannot afford it, because dropping out of college takes a lot of hard work. Because I mean, doing that hard work and having that consistency to get up each and every day without any motivation to do something, because you're not in a college, you're not obliged to something that, okay, I have to go there and attend classes every day. You're not doing a job, you're not obliged to work for someone because they're paying you. You have to do whatever you're doing for yourself, right? So having that consistency and that motivation each and every day is a habit. It's not something that gets built in a single day. And a lot of people have this confidence that, okay, I can do this, but they start procrastinating pretty fast. I mean, within 7 days, 2 weeks, something like that, they start procrastinating. Their productive hours start reducing pretty fast. So if you are really in a financial crisis, if you are really in a situation that you cannot afford it, and if you are really sure, one simple trick, I created a video on this as well on my YouTube channel, things to consider before dropping out of college, but I'll share it here as well. One simple trick that I usually recommend, just to decide if you can pull off that hard work or not, is that if you, let's say, you're doing college, right? If, let's say, that you have 6 hours of free time after your college, right? You come back home at 6 p.m. and you sleep at 12 p.m., and you have those 6 hours in the middle that you're home, right? So try to see how much amount of time out of those 6 hours are you able to spend in your studies. If, let's say, that amount is just 2 hours, then you can easily say, without any excuses, you can easily say that out of 6 hours you're spending 2 hours. So if, let's say, in a day you are going to have about 16 hours apart from sleep, you're just going to spend one third of it in your studies, which is about 6 hours or something, right? Which is not enough, because you need to put in those 10, 12 hours each and every day if you want to succeed without a degree. The competition is pretty high these days. Even the guys without degree are not getting jobs because they're not market ready and they're not relevant. But yeah, so you just follow the simple exercise. Just try to see, out of your extra time, how many hours are you able to spend in your studies. Doesn't matter how tired you are, doesn't matter how exhausted you are, you still need to give in that time, because when you drop out, you'll be in this situation of exhaustion, you'll be in this situation of feeling tired, but you still have to get up and do it, right? So just follow this simple exercise. And again, if you're in third or your fourth year, if it's just 1 year of journey left, don't drop out, no matter what. Because that it's not worth it.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if you're in India, I think it's better not to do it. But thanks for joining, Apoorv. Really appreciate you giving the time. You can connect with Apoorv. You can check out his YouTube channel and join his Discord server. All the links I'll leave in the description below. Almost 2,000 people, over 2,000 people have joined now. So they conduct like regular sessions. And yeah, so thanks for joining, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Thanks, Kunal, for having me. Bye, bye, everyone.